Broadcasting live from hell, this is the Monstrous Feminine Podcast, the film club where we dissect the eerie intersections of gender and horror. My name is Louisa, and I'm joined by my coven,
Mila,
Taya,
and Zeba.
And this is the funeral of the dearly departed Monstrous Feminine Podcast. We've gathered here today with heavy hearts, but also a spirit of gratitude and remembrance to celebrate the life of the Monstrous Feminine Podcast. At the ripe old age of 5, she was stabbed 666 times by 4 witches. It was a short life, but a well-lived one. She will be lovingly remembered for her uncanny dissections of gender, horror, and all things monstrously morbid, morose, and macabre. A letter from the alleged perpetrators was found at the very bloody scene.
Dear Coven, we are very sad to announce that after 5 years, we have decided to bring the Monstrous Feminine Podcast to an end. Over the years, as our careers change, we have found more and more that we do not have the capacity to give you the quality episodes you deserve. We've decided it's time to move on and allow each of us to flourish in our own creative realms. We did not come to this decision easily. Making this podcast has been the most fulfilling experience for all of us. We are endlessly thankful for the support you have shown us since the beginning. Hearing from all of you with every comment or message was always the most rewarding part of this. For us, this was never just a podcast. It was a community of compassionate, inspiring, and socially engaged horror lovers, and we feel truly honored to have been a part of it. We are also eternally grateful to our creative collaborators for believing in our work, welcoming us into their spaces, and giving us so many unforgettable opportunities. We are incredibly proud of what we brewed together, and we will always remember this podcast as one of our greatest adventures. Love,
Louisa,
Mila,
Taya,
And Zeba.
the Monstrous Feminine Podcast is gone but not forgotten. All episodes will remain on Spotify and YouTube. Previously unreleased bonus episodes and video essays will be available on YouTube. All links can be found in our Instagram and TikTok bios.
well, thank you to you guys for sharing my 20s with me. We met when we were just spring chickens of like 23 and 24 years old, and now we're all in our late 20s, found careers, and got each other through heartbreaks and bad jobs and everything in between, and somehow managed to juggle this podcast through all of it. We've also built such a nice community of people who we've gotten to interact with and have movie discussions with and get recommendations from and hear what they think about films. And this has just always been something that has been such a pleasant part of my life and such a fixture of my youth. It feels sad to leave it behind, but I know that we all have lots of wonderful things waiting for us in the future, and I'm sure all of the Coven does as well. This isn't like a sad ending. This is a happy time remembering all of the great things that we did with this thing that was just going to be a school project, but it became so much more because of all of the love that we poured into it and all of the love that you gave back to us. So thank you so much for everyone who listened, who supported us, who's believed in us. We really can't thank you enough for what you've given us these past 5 years.
Damn, that was like really well said.
That's it. That wraps it up.
Let's start with favorite episodes. Launching.
You can go first, Mila. I'm curious to what yours is.
Since we did it, nope.
If I was wrong, I was about to be really mad at you.
We were going to say different things at the same time. They'd be like, you don't know me at all.
We should guess everybody's before they say it.
Okay, next ones we'll try and guess. But yeah, the Westerns theme because I basically forced everyone's hand. Favorite 2, Nope and Baccarat. They were new to me, right? Like Nope had just come out, Baccarat I hadn't heard of. So it was like a delight to discover these 2 great films under the umbrella of science fiction, apocalyptic, Western. It was kind of like the perfect double feature.
Yeah, Baccarat was cool.
I think Klepper has a new film out, actually.
He retweeted our episode on Twitter, which was a fucking joy.
Validating and exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a highlight of that episode as well, knowing that he listened to it.
I feel like I'm the only one who's ever really gotten a choice for theme that's very specific.
Gone Girl was like a heavy push for me.
No, but that's like so within our brand. Horror westerns, I was like, hey, what about this completely obscure subgenre that we as a like gender horror podcast will probably not be that interested in?
I pushed for Bollywood as well. Ugh, are there any that you wanted to do that you didn't get to?
I really wish we had time to do a Long Legs, The Substance, or I just saw Presence like 2 days ago. And I think that one would have been interesting to do as well.
I wanted to do more like technology and horror so bad. And you wanted to do aliens, Zeba.
Yes. What the fuck? How have we never done UFOs? Okay, I'm gonna get a X-Files tattoo once I finish my rewatch of the whole series. It says "The truth is out there" with a little UFO. I'm very excited. I've loved the X-Files since I was a little baby tot.
Least surprising thing I've ever heard about you. I want to try and guess other people's.
There's like theme and then there's episode, and I think they can be different.
Okay.
I mean, okay, for Tyre, there's the obvious choice. I don't think it's the true favorite, but the obvious choice of cult horror for Midsommar, because you loved that film dearly. You love Florence Pugh, and also that film is special to us. We got a viral video out of it of us talking about consuming period blood and sperm.
It launched the pod on TikTok. And then after we had that, we tried TikTok for a wee bit longer, and then we dipped. So funny that we were like, and mic drop, done, we're out.
Maybe people don't know because we haven't been on TikTok in a hot minute. So one of our first TikTok videos was basically just a soundbite conversation of us when we talked about the scene in Midsommar where I was going to say Richard. His name's not Richard. What's Christian?
I wanted to say Chris, but I don't know why I nicknamed him.
The boyfriend who is drinking lemonade and it's like tinged a bit pink. And we're joking that it's, there's period blood in it, blah, 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 blah.
We're not joking. There was period blood in it.
Sorry, that is within the film. That isn't us speculating. Tyre brought some wisdom to I don't even know what you'd call it, the superstitions of if you let another man eat your, what is it? If somebody who's not your husband eats your your period blood, what is it?
It was my grandma used to say, don't let people cook like spaghetti for your husband, like a random woman, especially if you don't like them, because they'll put period blood in the spaghetti. And I thought it was a joke. And then like someone else who she knew who like lived in the neighborhood was like, yep, that's how I got my husband, period blood in the spaghetti. And I was horrified that this was a thing, but it is very much a thing that people do. None of us would ever do that though, obviously.
Disclaimer: don't put blood in people's food. That's weird.
It's just a bit of a biohazard. I support the ritual of it.
I'm scared of everything, so I'm absolutely not even touching my own period blood.
A blanket fear of things.
Tying it back to Bacurau, I think that TikTok is also where we got many of our South American fans who knew exactly what we were talking about from TikTok. I feel like when we looked at our stats, they were always over there.
Yeah, that was cute.
Shout out to Brazil, for real. The real stands of every fandom.
You won't find a more passionate people, I feel.
I'm bringing it back to Tyre now. Other favorite themes.
Well, Taya, hang on. You can reveal what actually was your favorite theme now.
Oh, it is cult horror. Yeah, that's
okay, right. Okay.
What were the other movies in that category?
We just did Midsommar, and we just did The Other Lamb, and we didn't like The Other Lamb.
I have since seen more people discuss The Other Lamb. Yeah, I still don't like it.
There were so many other cult horror movies we could have done, but I feel like we did them later, like Wicker Man.
I just like cults as a topic in horror, but I do think The Other Lamb would be more interesting to talk about now because, like, on the episode, one of the things that we kept saying was, like, the people had no incentive sort of to follow this random guy. And it seemed like no one was really coming from, like, a background of them saying, like, this person really went through a lot or he was just getting random people to somehow follow him. But I think now that we see a lot of people sort of going into this Christo-fascism very blindly when it very obviously doesn't benefit them, I think it would be a more interesting conversation about the ways in which misogyny, hatred of women makes people sort of blind to the ways that power is used against them, and hoping that they can protect themselves by aligning with misogyny is an interesting conversation in the context of this film, especially because I remember one of the points that Zeba said in the film was that the women were sort of self-disciplining or disciplining the other women when he wasn't there to tell them to stay in their place. And that is something that we were saying is very unique to women in society, that we will police other women. And that's especially prominent now. So I think it would be a very interesting conversation to have in this year.
I mean, the film still sucked, though. I agree with all of your astute observations, but that film was just not good.
What's the theme you want to have done?
I think I wanted to do animation quite strongly.
Oh, yeah. This might be morbid because the listeners are going to be like, so do it!
Sorry to y'all. I'm going to let y'all foam at the mouth because we can all just flame about it in the comments. Talk about what you would gone up for.
Yeah, I already said mine. Mine was technology in horror. And I'd specifically want to look at TVs.
There's some that I'm just surprised we never did, like Haunted House. Like, not that I desperately wanted Haunted House, but it's like surprising we didn't do it.
Mila and I did a haunted house lecture for Gross Encounters.
Real exclusive content. Real if you know, you know.
Central St. Martin's master's students got to hear that. So in my mind, we did do haunted house, but we did it live.
I think why I feel the same way about Monstrous Room because we did Alien at Gross Encounters 2025. And that's also why I feel like we did Aliens. I love alien invasion movies, y'all. Like, there's so many that I would have wanted to do.
I think you just want a science fiction podcast.
No, just alien invasion. I don't like other sci-fi. Sci-fi is like world buildy. I don't like world buildy. I like this world and aliens come to
You
this
like
world.
horror, basically.
Yeah.
And then horror set against the science fiction backdrop of alien invasion.
Yeah, I don't need to know how their technology works. I don't need to know how they're like, they have races in their society. Like, I don't like all that information. I just know that they're scary and we don't know what they are and they're here for us.
I mean, in terms of creature features, I got to mention The Host because that was also one of my favorite episodes because I am in love with The Host and Bong Joon-ho.
That was not for creature feature, though. That was for eco horror.
But it is a creature feature.
Yes, but that's confusing because we did creature feature as a theme. But that theme was episode 24 and it was eco horror water.
We thought we were going to tackle all the elements, apparently.
No, okay, so maybe I got a bit obsessive with the categorizing.
No, it made sense. There was so much.
There could have been like nuclear waste. There could have been like genetic engineering. There could have been like different elements, you know.
And that film is brilliant. Also, the reason why I love Nope. Like, I love a sci-fi horror hybrid with some like socio-political backdrop.
I still want to guess Zeba's theme.
So my favorite movie we've done is not under any of my favorite themes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite themes, yeah, they're separate.
Is
I
this
have
a
two.
riddle?
I have two and they all go together, I feel like.
Are these just clues?
Yeah, these are clues. I'm like a troll under a bridge.
I'm never going to get it.
Wait, I kind of want to get the favorite film. Is it ones we've talked about before as your favorite?
Probably. It's probably come up when we like pick like 3 to 5 on like an Instagram post, you know, those types of things. I've probably put it in there.
See, my guess for this is actually kind of wild, but I'm just going by the fact that I know you had a similar childhood in a similar area. So I'm going with We're All Going to the World's Fair.
I thought you were going to say Bones and All.
That was a very close second.
That's not
that
the
I was
answer,
going.
also.
My two very obvious answers are Gremlins and Ginger Snaps.
Oh, yeah, Gremlins.
I was going to say Gremlins.
But I don't think that's it because that's too obvious.
Yeah, because what does Gremlins link to? I don't know.
You want the answer?
Yeah.
Gremlins is my favorite movie that we've covered. It's not my favorite episode that we've done because it's very short. There's not a lot to say about Gremlins. But Ginger Snaps is correct for favorite episode. And let me tell you, it was a hoot to re-listen to. It's like one of the most mon femme themes we've covered. I knew that, but I had forgotten so many things, like how she grows a little tail, and we were like debating about whether it was a clit or a phallus or like what it was supposed to be because it's like hiding in her panties, but obviously it's like in the bag.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
The werewolf episodes are perfect.
Werewolf episode is not my favorite theme, but I do love Ginger Snaps because it hits on all that. We've covered so many teen girl coming of age movies, and the conversation around Ginger Snaps like hits all the points that we usually hit for those. The loss of innocence hits so many monstrous feminine themes, and I think that's why the teen girl movies like keep coming up. Like we had the mermaids, a lot of them were like, you know, puberty related, a lot of like trans coming of age stories that we've covered, and it just like reminded me of all those other movies. I think we did that one like a little earlier in the game, and I just love Ginger Snaps. It's always on my Halloween rewatch. It's such a good autumnal, cozy. It has that kind of like Heathers or like the Craft kind of vibe.
Almost like Jawbreaker. The like saturation is so 90s.
It's fun. It's like tongue in cheek. It's so on brand for us. And so that's definitely my favorite one. Re-listen to that one if you haven't.
Yeah, that is a classic. A classic we like because we have something against them, apparently.
I have something against classics. I actually do. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff that people push upon me as classics in film, I'm like, is it good or is it just like the first thing that did it? Is it good or do you feel like you have to like it?
Some classics are classics for a reason.
We did not feel like we had to like any classics. We were like, fuck that. I also love that from us. And I also think with horror, like classic is almost synonymous with like the mainstream slashers, which is just like, I think we always found those films the most unimaginative of horror. I feel like we've probably done slashers a lot less than you might expect from a horror podcast because they're just not the most interesting in terms of talking about the themes that we want to talk about. They didn't really fit. We've done a couple, and I really liked the Giallo film that we did, Tenebrae, and when we did Suspiria, actually. I've liked it in like different cultural contexts, but I don't like a true blue American slasher.
They have very little plot normally, and it's just sort of like gore, which is something that we've never really
It can be a bit
enjoyed
like
doing.
predictable or like formulaic. That's all. There's not a lot to say, which is not great for a podcast.
I want to bring up Possession.
Okay, yep.
Oh, bring it up. Say that.
We really actually needed to redo Possession because when we did it on the podcast, I was very lukewarm about it.
I was made to feel like a pervy, weird idiot.
I do in hindsight want to apologize.
If someone listens to this episode and then sees my letterbox, they're gonna be like, she did not like this movie. Why is it in her letterbox for? Well, let me tell you, you can have a second opinion of things. But basically, I just rewatched it and was like, actually, eats down, I fear.
So I want to apologize to you in the sense that I actually think Possession's really fucking interesting. Sometimes I don't realize how much I like a film in general, not just horror, until like it really sticks or stays with me in some way. And there are some that we've done which I maybe was a bit more lukewarm about them, or like not even lukewarm, but just not like Possession. I think on the pod didn't like it that much, but something like Annihilation, like I was probably a little bit lukewarm, but that grew to be like one of my favorite films that we've done, and horror films in general. And I think Possession's like that. Like it's really stayed with me, and I changed my opinion on it kind of because it made such an impression. I think what I don't forgive you for, and what might negate my aforementioned apology, is the fact that you made us do it for horror romance.
That makes sense. It makes so much sense. It is about a dissolution of a relationship, the division of a country.
I think that our reception was so poor because we were sold that it was under a romance theme.
I also want to do Old Boy for Valentine's Day special, and that was vetoed as an option.
Yeah, I unhinged pick for Valentine's special. I gotta say, a romance and horror.
To be fair, Mila's correct. They actually put that in the programming for, I think, like...
Oh, just because someone did it in a programming doesn't mean I agree with that choice, okay?
I think multiple different cinemas in London put that in their Valentine's Day lineup. And I was like,
It's pretty usual.
It's very like Blue Valentine, but make it horror-y.
I just think I was not prepared for what it was. And I think that film I needed a little bit of like, brain massaging beforehand to become really malleable. Yeah, exactly. I needed some lubrication.
The TikTok we have of that is crazy though, because the very beginning is me being like, this is what Noah Baumbach would have made his Marriage Story had he not made Madagascar 3 to pay for his divorce. And like, if he ever listens to the episode, it's over for me.
Mila, speak on Possession.
Did I not?
I mean, not really. I feel like everybody gave their apologies and you had brought it up to say something.
I guess it's kind of already been said, isn't that obviously the reason I want to do that film is because I liked it and because I thought it fit very well with the theme. And I also just think it's one of the horrors, if we talk about like, especially with like classics and slashers, that they don't really strike any emotional chord that I think we enjoy in horror. We want it to evoke strong feelings other than just terror and fear. And I think Possession, for all its like abstract fuckery and strange and perhaps nonsensical storytelling, imagery. I think that I genuinely am really deeply affected by it as a story about the breakdown of a marriage. I think it gets me. The tunnel scene, it fucking gets me. I don't like people that react to it just in a dismissive. I just think it's good to let things that feel like wholly emotional and quite visceral, like just to let that in. That scene is beautiful to me, as horrible as it is.
I don't know what it is, but like suddenly when I hit like 27, I became really, really obsessed with media about the end of relationships. Like I loved Fleischman is in Trouble, the TV show that aired I think like 2 or 3 years ago. But there's an episode called Me Time, and she has like a scream therapy session in it, and she's sort of like letting go of all of the things that have made her very stressed. It's interesting. You have to watch it. The book is also very good. But after I watched that show, that's I rewatched Possession again, and I was like, there's just something very cathartic about watching women be able to express the rage of like the dissolution of a relationship, because I feel like it's the usual portrayal that you see of it is like this sort of quiet sadness that is not really in your face. Like we've all seen what is that British Christmas movie that everyone forces you to see? In Love Actually, like when she knows her husband's cheating on her and like realizes that her marriage is failing, she like hides that she's crying, and it's like that's the usual portrayal I think that we see of a relationship ending. And so I've been very obsessed with films like that. I also became obsessed with Scenes from a Marriage. It was like Scenes from a Marriage. I watched the Oscar Isaac one and of course the original one, and that also became like a favorite of mine. I don't know what it is about like this age, but something about it, I feel like maybe I've gained enough female rage over my 20s when I'm like, oh, seeing it on screen is fantastic. But I also think it's just like I like seeing women be emotional on screen. I hate the idea that like quiet repression is sort of more, oh, this is the mature response, because I don't think it is. It's never mature to ignore your emotions. I like seeing women angry. I like seeing women be sad on camera. I like seeing us be able to be fully like faceted characters who are complex beings. I also enjoy complicated female characters that are sort of dislikable. I rewatched Girls recently and Insecure as well. And I was like, oh, watching like Girls and Fleabag and Chewing Gum and Insecure and stuff over for like the umpteenth time, and then comparing them to Sex and the City is such a difference in the way that I feel like women were written in Sex and the City versus how they are in like Girls and Insecure. They're allowed to be so much more like messy, because everyone on Sex and the City does have like a career at their age. I think they're like 32 when the show starts or something. But everyone has like a firm career versus on Insecure, like Molly has a career, but Issa is like working at We Got Y'all for a significant chunk of the show. She's unemployed. She works as a property manager at one point. On Girls, like Hannah is just forever jobless most of the time, or she has like very like makeshift jobs. But I feel like it's so much more of a relatable experience for our age of women to not necessarily have it all figured out by the time you're in your early 30s. Like, I think it takes a lot longer for people to get there, quote unquote, now. So I enjoy seeing those sort of messy portrayals of relationships and relationships ending instead of just happy stuff all the time. Maybe this is a reflection of I should go back to therapy.
I think they're two distinct things, though. And I think that we've encountered on the podcast in that we have our characters that express like quite immense amounts of rage. Like, I mean, any final girl like is driven to a kind of like animalistic, primal survival instincts of just trying to like make it through. And I think that regardless of whether they're given backstory and giving depth, like that is ultimately like a one note kind of performance of just fear and terror. You know, like I think it's cathartic and enjoyable, but I do think it is separate from necessarily complex female characters. For example, I love Audition. Yes, she's given backstory to her trauma, but I wouldn't call her a complex character just because she's given that, right? Like it's uncomplicated kind of trajectory of like young women subjected to unimaginable abuse turns out to want to enact the same violence. Like, I don't know, that to me doesn't necessarily read as complex. What was that under?
Valentine's.
Valentine's Day! I love Valentine's Day episodes.
I also kind of like Spring, actually. I remember that film.
Spring was good, yeah.
That one was another one that kind of stuck with me for a bit.
Mila, you saw Companion. Would you have done Companion for Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I think it's perfect for Valentine's Day.
Also, Lisa Frankenstein, I would have done for Valentine's Day.
Lisa Frankenstein was actually so good. I'm so angry at how people reacted to that movie.
Did they not like it?
The only thing I will say is I probably would have did someone different than Cole Sprouse as the guy because he didn't quite. I was like, Cole Sprouse?
It's distracting, the Cody of it all.
No one has guessed my favorite themes.
I was just about to do that.
Shark
It's
Week.
Shark Week.
Oh, I had a different one. Can I make my guess? I was going to say vampires or, well, now that you say shark, that feels like the obvious answer, so I feel silly.
What was your or? What was your or?
No, just vampires, but now I'm realizing it's probably sharks.
The correct answer is I had a list of 14 that I had a hard time narrowing
Oh my
down.
God, that's so Libra of you.
I know. I was about to say I really Libra'd hard when we had this task,
The briefest one.
and
14.
I won't be doing that respectfully. Don't play the Oscar music. I have categories.
Oh God.
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
Categories of themes?
Well, no, categories of which is my favorite and why. And sometimes that's the theme.
Go for it.
So actually my favorite themes, top 3, because I couldn't really narrow it down, were mermaids, hagsploitation, and folk horror. With mermaids, you've kind of already touched on it. I thought the lure was bonkers, and that's one where I kind of got really more convinced talking to you guys about it and going into the trans allegory of mermaids, even if it's not always intentional. I think blew my mind. Similar thing, had me thinking about body horror in like a very ginger snapsy way. Hagsploitation, I thought that was like the most on-brand mon-fem thing we've done. It was really fun to research. I really liked the films we did for it. Maybe X was a little bit, but I liked whatever happened to Baby Jane and like really looking into all like the backstory of it. And I liked Barbarian. And then folk horror. I love folk horror so much. So that was also so much fun to research. So I think those are my favorite themes. That brings me to my next category, which is the funniest episodes, or like the ones where I had the most fun on. So you weren't wrong in that Shark Week is indeed there. I love the Shark Week episode. I also loved Gremlins. We've already talked about that one. I love that episode so much. I think that's the one I've re-listened to the most. And I also, when I realized this is another horror comedy, and I spent all 5 years talking about how I didn't like horror comedy, but it turns out some of my top are Shaun of the Dead. I thought that was such a fun episode. Very short though, but like very fun. And then my other category was probably just like the ones that I just think are really good. One is Tumbad. Fucking love that film. And I hadn't heard of it before. And it was so on theme for us in terms of the monstrous womb imagery, etc. Also men, similar reasons, the monstrous birth. I also think it's hilarious that we did men as like a horror theme. That was funny of us. Also just went back and I listened to our episode 3 ever, which was horror noir.
Yes, I almost picked that one.
I think that was our first like one in a sense. I think the research of it and our format really like took hold.
Our first ever episode was just like part of the project and quite not how we ended up doing things. Not even all of us were on there. Zeba was not on the pod yet, hosting. And then the second one, we were like, still not really knowing what was going on. And I don't feel like it was our best quality episode, even though we did aliens. And I'm so mad that we did aliens in that episode and not and not in like when we were more in our groove. So it does feel like that was our first one. I also just like love the points that we talked about on there. I love the kind of deep dive into blaxploitation.
Remind me which films were in that, because we've done so many more black horror movies.
Blackula, Candyman, and Get Out.
Such good films. And I really liked the points, particularly that you made, I wrote down, was Zeba. It was like how Blackula makes up a lore of like being African royalty. And you're like, that's so Pan-African and that of that time of like the need to like claim roots back to Africa and like where art was in blaxploitation era. The idea of like reclaiming black sexuality and vampirism in like a kind of subgenre that's historically only portrayed white seduction. I thought that was really interesting. Also, you were just really fucking funny in that episode. I said something about how there was some stuff in Blackula that like overlapped with Twilight, and you said, "Are you suggesting that Mormon Stephanie Meyer is a fan of OG blaxploitation films?" Which really made me laugh.
What if she is, though? Now I'm really thinking about it. It's just the Anne Rice. The Anne Rice influence is in all of it.
We were still quite unpolished, so we kept in the introduction, Mila mispronouncing the director of Candyman's name, Bernard Rose, and Zeba just starts off by saying, "I don't respect that man, so say his name however you want." And I think that was so funny. So I actually like, I know it sounds like crazy. I do kind of, yeah, in my head I consider it like one of our first episodes, but yeah, I do quite hold that one really fondly of like one of our best. So yeah, I love a lot of the first season, like zombies and body horror and cult all went off.
I'm like re-looking at the first season. I'm like, wow, that was straight bangers.
Because we had a lot of movies to choose from that we hadn't done yet. We still do, I mean, honestly, but like you had to hit some of the classics.
We hit so many in this one, the first season. It's crazy.
We started really strong with like Carrie, Jennifer's Body, but I guess, obviously we were pulling from the Creed text.
I think the one that I like the most from season 1 besides cult horror is body horror. I completely forgot that we did Raw on that one.
Yes, body horror was one of my top themes. I did men and body horror.
More scandalously, what was your least favorite theme that we did on the entire podcast?
I didn't like dreams.
Well, we were quite vocal about that, weren't we? The canon as a whole is really disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was boring to research, if I'm honest with you. I thought it would give. I thought it would be like so interesting and there'd be so much theory to read, and there wasn't, and I was disappointed with that.
Honestly, I think I also kind of dislike all of the holiday specials because I didn't like any of those.
I was going to say holiday specials, even though Gremlin is my favorite.
I forgot Gremlins was in there. The Lodge and Gremlins are the only exception, but I'm like, oh, well, I like the original Black Christmas.
Oh, true.
Once we did those ones, though, it was a chore. It was like a chore to find more that were like worthwhile doing. We eventually stopped doing holiday specials. Like, we didn't do them last year because it was like there was nothing left to pick that would be good.
I want to give a special mention to the only episode with 2 hosts, and that is Zebra and I on As Above, So Below.
I was on that episode.
No,
you weren't, Taya. You were supposed to be.
You left us to our own devices.
We hit record and we were like, fuck it. Let's do whatever we want. Like, it was real, like, parents on vacation energy.
That is the only episode I'm not on in the whole 5 years.
I know there's ones that I'm not on. I don't even remember.
I don't think Zeba's missed any.
Have I not missed any? My roommates call me perfect attendance Polly because I always go to work and I always go on time.
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh my gosh, you're right. As Above, So Below is 20 minutes.
We had like nothing to say about it. I didn't like that theme. I didn't like that film.
We made it fit retrospectively to Descent.
Descent's fucking great.
Descent was good, but we didn't know what theme.
And then we did that 47 meters uncaged, and we also didn't like that.
Yeah, I feel like after the heyday of the first Shark episode, every other one was just not as good. How could you top Deep Blue Sea, the cinematic masterpiece?
We didn't get to do the Meg though, and that's unfortunate because I wanted to.
We did do Sharknado on a bonus.
Yeah, our bonuses are insane.
The bonuses are like very funny.
We're going to upload them to YouTube, so they'll be available for everybody, but I feel like they need a disclaimer in that I want everyone to view them in how they were created, which was, we thought only a few people would listen. Like, we didn't actually imagine they'd be public one day. They were just for like our May Queen subscribers. They're really like intimate and like, we just shot the shit. We didn't really do that much prep or research, so there's going to be like a difference in quality for them.
Not in
The
quality,
quality is
in
better.
freedom.
Quality in terms of like, they're not the same. They're not like our normal main episodes. They were extra content. So I hope when you go back, you can listen to it in the spirit. They were also made like a few years ago now. Like, it was season 2 and 3 where we were releasing them. So they're quite old and they're going to appear more recently as if we made them randomly now. But they are situated in a moment of time and they capture a lot of unhinged energy. I think my favorite one of the bonus is like The Fly.
You're not selling the bonus episodes. There are some true treasures.
I think Goodnight Mommy was also a good one. People really enjoy these. We did some good films for those. Significantly less censored.
That's what I'm getting at. They were like unfiltered thoughts. So it's like a peek behind the curtain for real.
I want to shout out Jaws because it's my favorite TikTok I've ever made. It's like a very long TikTok. I think whatever the limit was at the time, let's say a minute. For like 2/3 of it, we're going into quite heavy theory about like the American dream and like crisis of masculinity in Jaws. Like, we're doing like pretty heavy lifting for fucking Jaws. And then the bit that I love so much is that Louise accidentally mispronounces Jaws as Jaws.
All shark horror pays homage to Jaws. I don't know why.
Jaws.
Pays homage
Je
to
m'appelle
Jaws.
Jaws.
Sorry, the quarter French leaped out.
Beyonce, are you happy to be in Paris?
I don't know what I was saying anymore.
Why they blow up?
And I fucking edited stupid shot coming in with like a beret and a baguette. Beyonce comes in. Like, it's just
Some of your best
shooting
work
the
for
shit.
sure.
Some of your best
Most
work.
proud of it. And I watch it when I'm sad.
Jaws was actually a crazy episode because we really were we were doing some heavy lifting for a shark movie.
You guys laugh at me, but Shark Week was a fruitful theme.
I think like season 1, season 2 are probably my favorite seasons. And then after that, like, I still like the films and I still like the seasons, but I think those were like the absolute best seasons that we did.
Season 3 is my top ride or die. Just like so many I enjoyed from them.
What movies were in season 3?
So season 3 we did horror games, we did werewolves, cannibalism, men, romance and horror.
Yeah, I think season 3 might be my favorite.
Eco horror.
Eco horror, yo, The Bay to this day scariest movie I watched for the pod. I stand by that. I think about it, keeps me up at nights, and I'm no lily livered scared of nothing. Like generally I would say that like horror movies do not scare me anymore, and that one, please.
I did like Men as a Theme and Haxploitation and Femcell. So
Femcell was so cunt of us.
It was cunty. It was just so we could do Gone Girl.
But Perfect Blue was so good too.
Oh, Perfect Blue was good. Perfect Blue was one that surprised me and whatever. I think my favorite thing about being on the podcast with you guys is hearing what you think about it and learning from what you guys say about it.
season 4 really opened strong with The Handmaiden as a Valentine's Day special.
Yes, true. When did we do American Psycho?
Men.
That was for men.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a good episode too. Damn it.
I also love our Love Lies Bleeding episode with Reem.
Yeah, special shout out.
I think also, having a fresh perspective on it, I think it also like inspired us all.
The zine that we
We did
did.
so much content for Love Lies Bleeding. Like, we were single-handedly doing an Oscar campaign for that movie.
Rose Glass liked our post.
The way I forgot about that. We put our whole podcast OC into that.
I actually think one of my favorite episodes is Red Rooms because that movie really did surprise me. When we like got the PR thing for it, I had low expectations for what the movie was going to be because I was like, I haven't heard of this. But then when I saw the trailer, I was like, seems promising. And the movie really did blow me away. Like, I think that movie deserves so much more. Also, Pascal is so funny on his Letterboxd. Like, his review for Longlegs was Oz No Good Perkins. My unpopular opinion is that I actually did like Longlegs. I don't think it was scary though.
I also liked it. I know
I
it's
didn't
not
see
scary
it
at all.
yet. I'm sorry.
I've seen it many times. It's a long story, but I went on 2 different separate dates to see Longlegs in the same week.
But your boyfriend still doesn't know that you saw it before, though. This is a lie that you've just revealed publicly right now. He's going to listen to this and be like, what?
Leave it in. Leave it in. If he makes it this far into the episode, that's his reward.
People listening to the episodes is like the most horrifying thing because someone I know listened to the Blackening episode.
Oh.
And like immediately I was like, leave the episode. Leave it right now.
We got to talk about the Blackening and the hilarity of Mila not being on it and then us stopping the podcast. It was not a race thing. Mila simply had a migraine. Ill time.
My migraines are race-induced.
Stop.
Anytime I've missed the podcast, it's been because of a migraine. It's actually normally I feel fine, apart from like audio is quite jarring. I don't know if I could sit and actually listen to you guys.
I don't know if I can do that without a migraine.
I'm going to bring things back around to Nope. A few sentimental words on the podcast and why I think that we liked Nope for all the obvious reasons of Jordan Peele's mastery. The episodes that felt like very, like everything clicked into place is when we all enjoyed the films. The films were very like theme rich and they kind of also, we each surprise each other, will bring opinions or insights into the film that I think that like you can see when someone's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like I was obviously coming at it with like the Western genre, its rewrite of film history and recontextualizing of that in like a sort of apocalyptic setting. And then Ty like went on this great like point about documentation and like Black lives and how taking ownership of historical documentation in the film is presented as something that can exist alongside the increasing commodification and like spectacle as our most sought after entertainment and currency. It's difficult to talk about all these things like with any sense of nuance, and I feel like we all brought that together, and I think it touches on all of the things we really care about, which is sort of like, what is art and film for, and how can you like even begin to explore the unbelievably complex issues of things like national identity and race. And it didn't really touch on gender, but gender is like across the podcast, and then horror and genre. And I think it ticks all the boxes, and that's not a biased opinion just because it's the best film of all time.
I know we've been talking about like our greatest achievements on the podcast, but one of my greatest failures is not getting Jordan Peele to fucking listen to us. So if Jordan Peele could posthumously listen to this podcast, and I mean the podcast will be retired and dead, but if he could listen to it after, I would still accept that. I wanted to like go through and like get our one-liners, but respectfully that took too much time. So if you have favorite one-liners, I mean, my mom quotes one to me all the time. It's when Zeba was talking about their two greatest fears, which is cops and horses. And then they just pause and say, cops on horses, or something like that. I don't know what episode that was in, but my mom religiously quotes it to me.
I'm glad she's amused because I can't go to parades.
Sorry. Zeba is the funniest. Zeba, I wish we could compile, this is a one-day job, I'm sure, compile all of your like one-liners.
There was also some really good one-liners in the zombies episode that I re-listened to from season 1. One of them was, again, a Zeba one, which was like about the train driver who like changes characters.
Nobody said Train to Busan was their favorite. That's surprising.
And that kind of is a collective favorite.
You said, boy, you really came to work today. And that still gets me.
We should all aspire to be like that guy.
Also on Blood Quantum Taya, you were talking about, in the context of white settlers coming to America, you said, they were all dying from disease, being stank.
They were. Mila, when you say it tastes like pennies when we talk about the lemonade, that is also...
It tastes like pennies should be on a shirt.
It's going to be the intro to a Lana Del Rey song is It Tastes Like Pennies.
My pussy tastes like pennies.
Depending on what time of the month.
What were our favorite Witch of the Week comments?
Anybody who wrote in from the Ma Hive, we're still going up. Thank you for acknowledging me. I feel like they sensed that I was alone on that hill, and it's nice to have my small but mighty army to spam our comments. And maybe that was the movie that I begged for and pulled for that no one else wanted.
This is a recent discovery of our wonderful listeners, because we didn't get locked out, but you had to like create another Spotify account to look at your analytics. So we hop on and we see the recent comments on The Blackening and Tirehead. I think that we'd mentioned Ma within this episode, and you had revisited the idea of maybe getting a fuck ass Bob. And then someone suggested, listeners chime in, do you think Ty should get a fuck ass Bob? And then when I like looked back on our account, there's 2 new comments, like new-ish, being like, yeah, Ty, get the fuck ass Bob. So, is it time to reveal?
Ty really said 1 like and I'll get a fuck ass Bob, and we've got at least 2.
See, the problem with this is I re-looked at photos of me when I got a fuck ass Bob at 24 right before COVID hit, and I was like, I don't actually know if I like this. But also then I saw Nosferatu and I was like, wait, I really want to have a sea of hair surrounding me at all times. So I decided to grow my hair out instead. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. I'll get the fuck ass Bob when I turn like 34.
34. That's very specific.
I feel like there are some significant Witch of the Weeks that we have to shout out. People who've already like had, but like ultimate Witch of the Weeks. Jacqueline Joestar, who always comments on SoundCloud and is just like such a sweetheart. And they're always like, literally they commented recently about on an older episode, and they said, love this podcast, y'all are always amazing. And they're so nice and supportive. So thank you so much. Also, like Love Witch for being an OG podcast listener. You're supportive as well, and it's been lovely. I remember somebody named Khadija DMing us and saying, I've been listening to you guys since I was 15. I turned 20 this year with a heart. And that was like crazy to think that someone's been listening for that long.
And those formative years as well.
Over those formative years, and them listening for like 5 years, and we're now stopping at 5 years.
They're now around the age of when we started the podcast.
I can't believe I was young. Well, I'm still young, but
Hag.
I'm acting like the substance when it's her 50th birthday. But instead I'm just 29.
Ultimately, there's a huge thank you that goes out to anybody who's even listened to like one episode. We never thought that we'd even get like we thought when we made the podcast that it would just be like our friends and family listening. So the fact that like anybody has stumbled upon or dipped in and out, or if you've been there from the beginning, I think we're all just so immensely grateful, and you've just made the experience what it is for us with all of your such lovely comments and such thoughtful comments. I think you guys are all like so inspiring and have amazing takes when you write in, and it's been like a joy to make episodes and zines, whatever, what have you, for you.
The vibes of the Coven, I feel like that's one of the hardest bits of ending this. Is just like, it's such a lovely community, and I feel like I understand that y'all appreciate it, but I think this comes up when we talk about it. Like, I feel like responsible. Like, so I know that a lot of our listeners are younger as well. I was thinking about like, what media was I consuming when I was like in my late adolescence, early 20s, and it's like, it's a big deal. Like, I recognize that like those people and those platforms can be formative. So I don't know. I want to like acknowledge the gravity of that, of like, a lot of you discovered us through like TikTok or like other social media. I think when we speak, I'm also speaking to myself at that age who was discovering horror and like what I loved about it and how it helped me like process all sorts of things about life. And yeah, I think we've spent our mid 20s also using horror to like process big themes and stuff like that. And it's just been so lovely to walk with everybody on that journey, like whether people actually like commented to respond or even just was a passive listener and never interacted with any of our media and things like that. Like, it's felt, I don't know, I feel like that is significant. And so everybody's witch of the week this week.
This episode is dedicated to Casper Melville. As some of you might already know, the Monstrous Feminine Podcast began as a project for an MA module on podcasting at SOAS University of London. That class was set up and convened by the exceptional Dr. Casper Melville, who is always incredibly supportive of our work and continued to champion us long after this module concluded. Recently we learned of the devastating news of Casper's passing. He was the very embodiment of a teacher and mentor. Patient, kind, thought-provoking, and utterly brilliant. In so many ways, he laid the foundation for this podcast, not only through his passionate support of our idea, but also the praxis of his work. A firm critique of the commodification of the arts and culture, driven by a deep love for them, as well as the resolve to forge a better system. We owe him so much for all that he taught us, and it was always a comfort to know when producing episodes that he was out there, still cheering us on from afar. We once playfully referred to Casper as a fatherly figure for the podcast, but he preferred the term uncle. Goodbye, Uncle Casper, and thank you for everything. We will miss you dearly and forever, our friend.
Thank you for listening to the Monstrous Feminine Podcast, produced and hosted by Zaber Aurora, Taya Burnett, Mila F., and Louise Johnson. Big thanks also go to Sebastian Pizarro for our wonderful theme music. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Monstrous Feminine Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate and review us on Spotify, and follow us on TikTok at the Monstrous Feminine Podcast for clips and more fun. All information can be found at our website, themonstrousfemininepodcast.tumblr.com. We hope you enjoyed our podcast and we will miss you all. Brooms up, witches out.